Would you buy a property that isn't even built yet? Because that's exactly what most people are actually doing today, and some people make money while some regret it. So today I'm going to explain BUC very simply, but more importantly, how to use it correctly. What is BUC? BUC is actually simply refers to building under construction, and you're buying directly from the developer, okay, based on floor plans and also show flats, right? So you'll be paying progressively according to how the buildings are constructed, right? So you're not paying like upfront everything to them. For building under constructions, we will also mainly be looking at who are the developers. When you go to the BCA website, right, they will have all the band ranking of all these developers. So this one is, I went to the BCA website to see which are the developers that are band 1. So you will see a lot of all these main developers that we usually see, right? Keppel, Land, UOL, CDL, and then UOL again. And then we have the Singland and all these, right? CDL, Guoco Land, Hoi Hub, Qingjian, all these are band 1 developers, and they can actually sort according to like this project is under band 1 rating. We want to know who are the developer when we buy the BUC. Okay? Right, how does the whole process work? For buying a BUC, usually the developer will have their show flats done up, and then they will open up for preview, right? So we call it the VIP preview and the public preview. So this preview will be usually for about 10 days. So that is the time where you go to the show flat, see the show flat and all these, right? And then the units are not for sale yet. So that is just solely for viewing of show flats. And then they will have a deadline for the submission of interest. So let's say if you're interested in buying a unit over there, you can actually submit your interest to the developer. They will have a cut-off date, usually on the 10th day. So every project works differently, so we need to know the instructions from the developer for different projects. Alright, so after they are closed on the submission date, then they will have this e-ballot date. So this is a date whereby everybody who done the submission, they will have a ballot ticket. So with this ballot ticket, the developer will do an e-balloting. Usually it's online, it's a live link where we'll send to the buyers, and then the buyers can log in to see their queue numbers. Once it's balloted, they will have a queue number tagged to their name. Then they will be based on their queue number to come in on the booking day, which would be likely on a Friday or Saturday. So it depends on which category you fall under. So for some developers, right, they will have the VIP launch. They will also have the bulk purchase. Bulk purchase meaning you buy 2 units and above. And then some will have agent purchase. And then some of the developers, they put 4 or the 5 bedrooms 1 day before the actual public launch. And also for some developers, for example, Guoco Land and Hong Leong, they will have like ex-owners priority. So meaning that if let's say this owner has a property they are currently staying, which is under Hong Leong or Guoco Land, they are eligible to come in as an ex-owner priority purchase. That means you come in 1 day earlier compared with the public launch, right? So usually this will be done on a Friday. Some of the developers, they wanted to do it on a Saturday also, which is the main public launch, but in the morning. So then after that, on the public launch will be the single purchase already. Those people who have balloted, they will be able to come in on this launch day based on their queue number. For people who did not put in their interest, they will only be able to come in after everyone, those who have placed their interest, right, have bought a unit already, then they can come in. Okay? So actually most people think, right, this is just buying, but actually, right, this is where the strategy starts. Okay? So now let's take a look at how is the payment. Okay, so for this payment timeline, let's use an example based on the 2 million property. Let's say if you go to a show flat and then like you like this property, you have considered all factors already, and then you decided to go for this unit based on 2 million property. So on the OTP date, right, will be 5% cash to developer. So you can do a transfer or you can do a check to the developer. Alright, then developer will send out the SMP 3 days from the booking, right? Let's say for example 10th of April. So developer will send out the SMP. When the developer send out the SMP, it's a courier service to your law firm, so it will be directly on the day that you will receive also. So from the date of receiving, you have 3 weeks to exercise, 21 days to exercise the SMP. That means you need to go to your law firm and do the signing and exercise the SMP. So based on this date, it will be 1st of May, 21 days from this 10th of April. After you have signed the SMP, within 14 days, you need to pay your stamp duty. So in this case, it will be 15th of May that you need to pay the stamp duty. Based on the 2 million property, it will be 69,600. Alright, following that, on the 8th week from OTP date, okay, will be 2nd of June, you will need to pay the 15%. that is 300,000 based on a 2 million property. It depends on the construction progress of the property. So let's say if this development, the foundation is not done yet, then you wait for the foundation to be caught before you pay the other 10% foundation. If not, then you will just need to pay until this portion. That means the total of this 300,000 with this 100,000 and also the stamp duty total will be 469,600. Okay, so this will be the timeline for a typical BUC. Right, why people would want to buy something which is not built yet is also because, right, firstly they have a lower entry price, and then secondly is because of this progressive payment, and also there will be a potential upside before completion. So now this is how the progressive payment will look like, because you don't need to actually pay upfront, because for resale, once you are completion already, the full loan will kick in, the full installments will kick in. So for example, this progressive payment, again we use this 2 million property. Let's say we base on a 75% LTV, loan to value, and then a 1.5% interest rate. As of now, the interest rate is about 1.3 something. So we use 1.5 as a calculation. So now if let's say they are done with the foundation, so we will need to pay a 10% to the developer. Over here, you see there's this amount dispersed by cash or CPF. So this is 100,000 over here. That's 5% of the property price. Reason being, our maximum loan is 75%. So just now when we see towards this side, right, this portion here 5% and here 15%, that's a total of 20%. So there's another 5% here, then that will make up 25% of the property price. So for the 75% onwards will be your loan already. So the bank will pay this 5%, then your installments starts at $345. This is based on 1.5% interest rate. So out of $345, $125 will go to your interest, monthly interest, $220 will go towards your principal. Okay, after that, once they are done with the framework, then the developer will inform your law firm, the law firm will inform the bank, then the bank will disperse another 10%, and then your installments increase to $1,035. Okay, so this will be going on progressively until TOP. So at TOP, you are actually paying 85% of the property. That is the time where you get your key and you can move in, and you can also rent out your property. Right, so 1 year later, that's about 12 months, when the developer achieves CSC, which is the Certificate of Statutory Completion, then they will ask for the 15%, then your installment will be $5,177. This will be based on a 2 million property at 1.5% interest rate, 75% LTV. This is how the progressive payment will work. So from then on, you can actually refinance later on, after the TOP. So these are the bank interest rate in 2023 that has reached up to like 4.2%, right? For BUC, we can only use floating rates. For TOP projects, that means resale projects that is ready to move in, okay, so that one you can choose whether you want a floating rate or you want a fixed rate. Okay, so this is the current BUC floating rates, about 1.3, 1.29 range, right? But once the TOP, right, you can refinance and then you can change to a floating or even a fixed rate after the TOP. For a lot of people, they will ask, by when do I need to commit to the bank that I want to take this bank loan? Another question will be, can use CPF for stamp duty without the bank letter of offer or not? So another one will be, what if I just sold my property, awaiting completion, and need the funds from the property that they just sold to pay for the 15% and the progressive payment of the new property? So let me answer these questions. Let me go back to this. Right. So the question will depend on whether are you using CPF for this 15%. Because this 5% over here has to be in cash. Alright. Then this 15%, if let's say you are using CPF for this 15%, then you will need the LO, the bank letter of offer, before you exercise your S&P. You will need to have the LO before you exercise the S&P. Right, but let's say you are not using the CPF over here, you can actually have some time until you need to disperse loan or until you need to use your CPF. So you have that period of time to plan. Another question is, can you CPF for stamp duty without the bank letter of offer? The answer is yes as well, because if let's say you're using cash for this 300,000, then this must be in cash, So if let's say your CPF currently has got like 70,000, you want to use it for your CPF, can be done, because you don't need an LO to pay for this stamp duty, because this one is stamp duty paid to the IRAS, so it's not part of the property. You can use CPF for this portion without having the LO. Alright? Right. So the next question would be, what if I just sold my property, awaiting completion, and need the funds from the property to pay for the 15% and progressive payment? So this is where the COH extension comes in. The COH, they know that there are people who just sold their place and then they are waiting for completion. Then they bought another place, but they need the funds from this current property to fund for their new purchase. So for this COH extension, meaning controller of housing, you can write into controller of housing to extend the OTP exercise date to 12 weeks from the OTP date. So you have these 12 weeks to wait for your completion and wait for your funds to come back before you exercise your property of the new purchase. On condition, you need to write in the reason and you need to have the exercise OTP of your current place. Alright, so let me go through with you the timeline. For example, a normal timeline first. So let's say if you commit to a property at 7th of April, you pay 5%. Then within 2 weeks is like, because just now I mentioned 3 days so you can actually request to developer that you want to send out the SMP on the last possible day. So let's say in this case, right, we managed to ask developer to send out on the last day, which is 21st of April. Okay, so 21st of April, you receive the SMP, you have 3 weeks to exercise, which is 12th of May. Exercise meaning you go to the law firm and do the signing and all this, so you don't pay anything first. Then 2 weeks later, within 14 days, you need to pay stamp duty, 69,600. Okay? Then after that, on the 8th week from the OTP date, which is 2nd of June, then you will pay the 15% plus the progressive payments. Okay, so in this case, we just assume that the foundation is not caught yet, so it's easy for understanding, right? So if let's say foundation is caught, then all this amount will need to be plus together in here. So in this case, we will just use the 15%, which is 300,000. Alright, that's for the normal timeline. So now let's change it to COH. With the COH, similarly, 7th of April, we OTP, pay a 100,000, 5% option fee. Then we request for developer to send out the SMP on the last possible day. 21st of April, you receive the SMP. Then you write into COH and the COH approve, right? And then will be until the 12th week from the OTP, will be around 30th of June. You will need to go to the law firm to exercise the SMP, to do the signing and all these, and plus paying the 15% plus progressive payment all together. Alright, so because your date of exercise is 30th of June, right, you need to pay your stamp duty within 14 days, which would be July 14 from June 30th. Right, so here will be another 69,600, 14th day from the OTP. So in this case, you lengthen your timing so that in between you can have time for your funds from the current property to complete and come back, and then can go out again to pay for your new property. Okay, so this is how we get more time from the COH. Another thing is school registration. So a lot of people have this misperception that once the property is bought under your name already, you can use this property to go and register for your child's primary school. But actually it's not like that. So you will need to go and see this expected NOVP on the OTP itself. NOVP is Notice of Vacant Possession. So this is the date that you see on your OTP. This date, right, the developer will write a later date. But usually construction may be earlier. So sometimes the TOP, for example, this one 2027, right? Sometimes the TOP could be like end of 2026. It is very hard to say. So it depends on the construction progress and how fast they do, right? So even that you know that it's going to TOP on end of 2026, but if you go and register for your child's primary school, they will still base on this date if your project at that point of time during the registration is not completed yet. They will just base on this date. To qualify for the school registration, the children must be born in the year 2019 or later for the registration date in 2025, like this. So you just use this date minus 8. So you minus 8 years will be the year that your child is born, so that you can register for the primary school at the age of 6. Alright, so because you're 6 years old, then you register for primary 1 Okay, so this is how we see for the school registration. So next will be the pros and cons for this BUC versus a TOP project. So BUC is not for everyone. If you need a house to stay in very urgently, you need to move in, then BUC is not suitable. Alright, for TOP projects, right, one thing is that you need renovation. You may need renovation because some of the projects are maybe older, then some of the wear and tear we won't be able to see when we go viewing, especially with our naked eye. If there's some leakage or whatever, we won't be able to see whether there is all these issues, right? So next is the full loan will kick in immediately. That means full installments, and then you can choose either fixed rates or floating rates, alright, when you're taking the bank loan. Less future uncertainty, meaning what you see is what you get already when you are at the resale property. And the price reflects the current market value. So the market value is at this price, so everyone will be asking around the same price. Less early entry advantage because you are buying in as a second owner already, so you have a slightly lesser advantage compared with the first owners. And then one thing good also is that you have immediate rental income, and then you can also ready to move in almost immediately. So let's say if you want to move in, you can straight away completion, do some renovation, you can move in already. Or if you are looking for investment, you can rent out straight away and then you can have rental income. Whereas for BUC, the moment you get your key, it will all be brand new with 1 year warranty from developer. So you don't need to do like a lot of renovation, you don't need to do like structural works renovation and stuff. And then it will be progressively paid. Until you TOP, you are only paying 85% of the property, and then you also have a lower cash upfront because you just need to pay the first 5% and then the rest can be in all CPF and stuff, and then it will be in a longer timeline period so you can plan your purchase, right? But only floating rates for BUC. Then a little bit of uncertainty because you're buying based on floor plans and based on show flats. So the potential for price appreciation before TOP, which is very real. We see a lot of projects, right? When it comes to TOP timing, the price actually surge up, right? So lower entry advantage, that means you have the first mover advantage because you will be the first owner, everybody buy at the same price, and then when you sell to the second owner that time, then it was more or less set a benchmark during that time. But the thing is, you need to have place to stay during the construction over 3 to 4 years time, right? That means you need to find a place to stay, for example, with your parents, or you need to have another house that you can stay in. Otherwise, you need to rent a property. So when you rent a property, a rental cost will be incurred. The question is, right, even when buying a BUC property, can you still stay in your current place, right, without the hassle of moving? So we have a solution to this, which is the ABSD remission, right? So for example, if let's say you currently hold a HDB, for example, and then you want to buy a new launch property, which will take maybe 3 years to complete, right? But at the same time, during this period of time, you don't want to have the hassle of moving your family around, staying in a rental property, then you can choose to pay ABSD for the BUC property that you're buying, right? After that, when you TOP already, you collect key, you sell your current HDB within 6 months from the TOP date of your new property, you are eligible to actually ask for remission from the IRAS, your ABSD that you have paid. Okay, so the ABSD for a second property Singaporean will be 20% of the property price. A few conditions that you need to fulfill. So the next property must be under 2 persons' name and they must be married, okay, because it's only for matrimonial home, right? So once you pay this ABSD already, then once it's TOP, you have 6 months to sell your first property within 6 months from the TOP date. After you sell your first property, then you have 6 months to ask for remission to get back your ABSD already. Okay? So this is how you can still buy a BUC while staying in your current property. The only thing is that you need to fork out this ABSD first. Alright? So how do people actually make money from this BUC? Because actually, most people think that BUC is just a type of property, right? But actually, right, it's a strategy. And whether you make money or not, right, it will actually depends on how you enter and what you choose. So BUC is not just about buying early phase, like the first during the launch and all this. It's about buying it correctly, entering at the right price, and also choosing the right unit. And the most important thing, also know your exit, right? So other factors include like understanding the developer's pricing strategy, right? Because within the same project, some of the units will perform, some of the units will struggle. So this is where your strategy will place out. So if you want to know which projects or units are worth considering, just drop me a message and I'll share my analysis with you. When we build wealth through real estate, we are not just investing in properties, we are investing in better lives. My name is Joey San. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.